Hello and welcome back to another Island 54 development stream where I'm continuing work on my survival crafting MMO. In yesterday's stream, I got a new service spun up on my server side. What's my holographic? Um, and so it's now able to send item data and recipes across to clients just over HTTP. Today, I'm going to be making those, well, integrating those APIs with the client just so that they can kind of keep a copy of the data. I'm not going to worry too much about the design of when the client is going to call into the server. So for now, it'll probably be necessary for the client to be restarted when recipes get changed, but that will do for now. And hello, random guy. Welcome back. And also hello to whoever that is over on Twitch. Okay, now I do need to have a look. I can never remember how I do my web calls, my REST calls, sorry, over on the C# side. I don't have a huge amount of C# experience. So the easiest way for me is going to be to just look at my uh, code to stream chunks, chunk stream system, because this does go and grab. This does web requests, and so I'll just kind of copy and paste the code. Why not? Uh, I really do need to refactor this code. It's not in here. This is just the renderer. 7, the number is important. Okay, background load chunks. I can't remember where I do this stuff. It's clearly not in here. Here it is. So the way I normally do things is I use one of these HTTP client objects. It has an async that we await on, and then this is going to return a task. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's just write a kind of a client of some sort for ontologies. Clients.ontology client. Oops, that didn't do what I wanted. Clients, let's move this one up. And then rename it. There we go. Okay, we're going to have a task of list of, oh no, let's do a dictionary. Let me think about this. Okay, so a store internally, I'm just going to just kind of guess at what this is actually going to be. a lot of alerts on my phone. Nothing important. All right. Now, what does an item have? It is going to have an ID. Going to have a name. I never know what these are called. Is there such thing as an iSet? Yes. iSet of strings or capabilities. Notice this is a set instead of a list because there is no order to these. Okay, then let's create a new class for this. Create. Want a class. I know I'm duplicating code here, but it's for good reason. Public bool is discrete. Okay. So next we need to define recipe. This is all just so that I can parse these things. Here's a recipe. Is inputs a list or a set? I don't think the order matters, does it? No, so I'm going to make it a set. I will make the outputs a list though, because I can imagine that making a difference to the order that it adds things to your inventory or something like that. So we'll make that an item spec. Is there such thing as an iList? Yes. That I did not want it to do item spec though. I think Griffix hobby game is a kind of a space game with a with atmospheric simulation in it, if I remember correctly. So an item spec is going to be, it needs an ID. Then we need a tool spec. Oh, that's always good to have your elevator pitch. Okay. Move that. Move that. And then import the correct classes here. Okay. I didn't know there was a limit on characters on YouTube comments. All right. Let's look at the chunk loader. We'll grab this code, do something like that. We do need this to do. We've got a similar issue here, which is the ontology server space URL should come from the session manager. That's great. So when we connect to the server actually sends through a payload with all the endpoints that we might need to contact the server. And so one of those will be this bit. Obviously, when it's deployed to the cloud, this will be HTTPS, may not use a port number. I'm not sure. I imagine I'll use a load balancer and it will parse out the suffix here. And from there, I think that, yeah, it will then dish it out to the correct service in the backend. Windmills, spin, wind. No, I don't know. What kind of music do windmills like? Oh, flowery, I like it. Base URL. They're metal fan? I'm not sure I get that. Metal? I don't get that one. All right. Oh, I'm not sure I get the metal bit though. Still, they could be fans of anything, right? Let's make this one private. I'm just going to break this out into two separate requests. There's no reason these can't run at the same time. So let's do fetch recipes. Then we can do something like this. No, you're limited to one a day, random guy, no matter how bad it is. Okay. Um, all right. Import that. And then I think we can just return data, right? Otherwise, what do we do in our else case? Redundant else keyword. What's... How does it know that's not going to happen? I'm confused. Does this already throw an exception? Oh, no. I'm unsure as to what's happening here. I've got a feeling that this get async, does it guarantee that the status code is okay? Otherwise it throws? I'll go heads. Um, okay, I'm just going to pull up the documentation here. And, oh, what have I just done? I've just moved my OBS window. So does get guarantee that it returns a result or not? Methods, get async. I really don't understand how this code has that warning in it. Redundant else keyword. We're just saying if status code is okay, then we do all this stuff, else throw an exception. I'm going to let IntelliJ clean this up. Now, what happens if I invert the if? Ah, no, I see what's happening. It really just wants me to put this stuff outside the if. So if I remove that, it just puts it at the top level. Yep, that I don't really have an opinion on that from a style point of view. So I will agree with it. Throw new exception. Can't fetch recipes. Yeah, I lose all the details here, but you know, I'll need to replace all this client code at some point because I need to have retry mechanisms and all sorts of other cool bits and pieces in here to get this production ready. So I'm not too concerned about requests failing. So let's do another one, which is going to be a list of items. Fetch items. Then and that needs to be item. Items. Then okay, now all I need to do now is work out how to await on multiple tasks in C sharp. C sharp async await many. Parallel. What? Oh, okay. Um, okay, so I think I can just do task.whenAll, and then I just pass it the tasks. When all, does this let me pass? I don't think I can do an ellipsis style thing here, can I? I can. Oh, although I need to do more than that. Because I need to actually parse these and build a casino. I'll go casino. Um, I need to actually build the store in here. So what does this return? Does this return like just a generic task? Or huh. All right. Keep in mind, Graphic is trying to work their random guy. So I think that launches those tasks, and then I think I can just await on them. So let's do return a new item store. Result items task dot result. Okay. That is meant to be ontology store. Create a constructor. Okay. Add recipe ID, recipe. I'm sure there's an easier way of doing this, but this will work. Item task result. Let's give this one a better name. Recipes and items. Items dot for each. Okay, and then I guess I probably want to make these ones just something like this. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Oh, that's fine. Make that read only, rename it to items, rename that one to recipes. All right. These all need to be public because I've just exposed them through a property. Is that it? I think that's it. So what I should now be able to do is, oh, I've got all sorts of problems in here. That's the wrong kind of item. Uh-oh. What have I done? This is what goes wrong if you have multiple things with the same name. Oh, I need namespaces, that's all it is. If I go and put a namespace around my client code, I can find my client code. Systems, clients, ontology. Can I do it? Just do like namespace. Yep, that's not what I was after. Oh yeah, there we go. I do need to change that to block scoped. Because I know Unity does not like the wrong scope on these. I can't remember how I changed the IntelliJ configuration to prefer non-block scoped namespaces. I definitely prefer the format of non-block scoped. There we go. somewhere in my settings is going to be an option to make this the default. Oh, configure code style. Aha, block script. There we go. So I believe that will now, when I do namespaces, it will do block script by default, which is nice. Okay, then anytime I have this underline, I just need to get rid of the reference to ontology because it is all using the other reference to items. Item, that it? I think that's it. Okay, next. I need to test this code. Excellent. Which language will you be using JetBrains for? Yeah, it's a really good IDE. It doesn't matter what language you're using; they've got a good IDE for it. So much better than Visual Studio as well. Well, certainly better than VS Code. I've not tried the commercial Microsoft IDEs in quite a long time. All right. So I think what I'll do next, because I need to, oh, C++ and Unreal. I didn't know they had an Unreal integration. But yeah, C Lion is pretty good. I've used that a bit. It's just a shame they don't have a free version of C Lion. Um, I mean, they've got it like a 30-day trial or something, but yeah, it's unfortunately paid only for the IDE after the 30-day trial, as far as I know. They're not that expensive though, as far as IDEs go. Um, all right. What I want to do to prove that this is working, I just want to add a hook somewhere. Like maybe when you bring the crafting menu up, uh, I'll make it so that it just makes a call out to the ontology server and prints out its results or something like that. Uh, so let's go to the craft verb performer. It's not just the speed graphic that I like about the JetBrains editors. It's also they seem to do a much better job of managing imports and things. So an issue I've always had with Visual Studio is when you go and uh, reference some HTTP client or a JSON deserializer or something like that. It seems like it often expects you to know what the include is for it, and I'm really not a fan of that. Whereas the JetBrains products, they'll almost always get your imports and includes right for you. Uh, and it takes a little bit to build up the muscle memory, but once you do, it can be really fast to navigate around. If I want to go to an inventory slot items container, just as an example, I just go tap tap with the shift key and I just type the initial letters. So ISIC, ISIC, and there it is right near the top. Um, yeah, I'm quite a big fan if you hadn't noticed. All right, let's see. Where does it actually do the work? Well, let's just do it in here. Execute crafting. Let's do a new ontology client. and then dot fetch store. Yeah, not a problem, Griffic. Um, I can tell you one shortcut that you can use a lot, which is just Control Shift A. Um, uh, oops! Oh, what did I just press? That just brings up this, and it lets you do things like, find, or what might I want to find usages. But when things have a shortcut like find usages, all right, that's Alt F7. So it's a really good way of uh, discovering features within IntelliJ. There's an equivalent in VS Code. I can't remember what the key combination is in VS Code. I always just map it to Control Shift A because I'm so used to doing that. Okay. So we've got a result, and I don't know, let's just do a debug. Oh, how do you do it? Log. There we go. Dollar. Let me just might bang my microphone a bit here. Just need to move it a bit so that I can see my keyboard. Let's do got ontology with alt dot how you spell ontology. Okay. So spin everything up. But yeah, it's the only shortcut you need, Control Shift A. When JetBrains popped into the stream here, they had a couple of subtle digs at me when I'm like, oh, I'm not sure the shortcut for something or other. They're like, you meant to hit Control Shift A. All right. Is my server up? My server is up. Then I can run the client. Then I guess I need to actually pick up a couple of items. And then if I craft, oh, I think something crashed. Hey, I found my bad hash thing again. Hello, Monty Logic. Welcome back. All right. So I suspected it was this. I suspected it was when we had got an empty packet. There was a discrepancy in the CRC. So what is going on here? We're getting an error. This is Linux, Monty Logic. Yeah, it's been a while since I've used Windows. Yeah, intermittent bugs, or the worst variety of the ones where you inserting the debugs make them go away, which I'd like to call Heisenbergs. bugs. The moment you observe them, they go away. All right, so this is a problem here in the UDP transmitter. I think I'm not sure what's happening here because we're getting. This is Ubuntu. I think it's 2204. Yeah, I think it's 2204. Either that or 2004. One of the whatever. But it's not necessarily the latest LTS, but it's one of the LTS releases. One of these days I might go across to Arch like all the other cool kids, but yeah, not there yet. Okay, so my problem here is I'm getting these bad hashes, which suggests that packets are actually getting sent, but I don't see where we're actually sending a packet here, because I should be generating a message saying that it's generating the hash. So I think this is going to be something pretty silly on the server side causing this. I think that what's happening is we're getting this error and it's deciding to send a packet without filling in the hash. So I think that this error is stopping us from doing a hash, but then we're still sending anyway. Okay, so this is it trying to do protobuf. So let's go datagram generator 128. Datagram generator line 128. So it is crashing here, which is indeed stopping it from... Ah, here it is. Okay, so I'm really glad I found this. What's happening here is we're getting an error, preventing it from filling in the header data on the packet. But then I've got no idea why I did this. I decided to make it just send an empty buffer back. So the server, instead of sending any data at all, is just sending, I presume, just 0 bytes. The client receives those 0 bytes, but then seems to try and parse the packet anyway. So I'm just going to look at what this code does with an empty buffer. Import that. Let's go datagram generator, but it doesn't send that. On tick. We need the transmitter function. When does that get called? That gets called here. So this is getting sent as, this is receiving a 0 length buffer. Let's just confirm that with a breakpoint. I can't. Okay. Just an aside, I should get rid of these warnings as well. These are not an issue. It would be normal for the client to send through multiple copies of an invalidation. And so there's no reason for it to warn on that. It shouldn't be doing it this often, but that's because the server is not sending data. Okay, so we send the buffer to that. Okay. So what I need in here is I need this transmitter function to be a buffer or an undefined. I'll make it null, actually. And then in here, we are going to say if buffer not equal to null, then send it. Then, way back in here, this is going to return null. Okay, so that's stopped that error, I think. No? Oh, I've totally killed things. All right, let's just stop the server. Oh, that's because this needs to be for null. There we go. Start this back up. I'll do it in the debugger so that I can debug if needed. So what should now happen is the server should stop sending packets out to the client in the case where something goes wrong. it doesn't make sense for us to send any data if we don't know how to send data. It's not ideal because it means that the client will stop receiving data from the server. The client will then assume that the connection's gone down, and after about a minute, it will refresh the connection. What has happened? I'm not locked up, am I? Nope. Something is unhappy here. I apologize if I get laggy in a second. Something is not going right. I might just restart IntelliJ. If I can. Ah, go. Stop that. Still going to restart IntelliJ. I'm just not sure what's going on there. Restart. All right. Okay. So back to where I was. Once the server goes into this bad state, it should continue logging these errors. Oh, that's going to be up in the transmitter, wherever the transmitter was. It'll continue logging these errors, and then it will just prevent it from sending data out. The client will go into like a reconnect loop, but that's better than nothing. All right. Something's not happy here. And I don't know what it is. The keyboard shortcut, Control Shift A, is the find all the keyboard shortcuts shortcut. It lets you search for functionality. So, go to next error or something like that, and find out what the key shortcut is, or just execute the command from there. Um, so I'm not sure why IntelliJ is doing this. I suspect it's something to do with I've set up a breakpoint in here. I am assuming it is that. Yeah, this looks much more responsive. Yeah, Control Shift A is the only shortcut you need to know in IntelliJ. From there, you can find everything else. Okay. Let's close this. We are running in the debugger. I have no idea if the problem is still going to exist. In some ways, I kind of hope so. Otherwise, I'm going to be very confused about uh, why it did what it did. Okay, it's whatever is triggering that bug is not happening at the moment. But at least I'm a step closer um, to solving this. The client will no longer see bad hashes anymore. Okay, let's try this again. Come in there, pick that up, and then I'm going to craft. Um, excuse me. I think I just inhaled a piece of dust. Okay, we're getting the error again here. Um, this must be something to do with the remote command requests. However, what should be different now is our client shouldn't be getting confused. And sure enough, it's no longer getting those warnings. Good. So the next question is, do we see the ontology loading? I don't know. Let's try this again. Oh, something's not happy. I hit a breakpoint or something? All right, I've got a few different directions I can go in. So the fix, Graphic, was the server is it's actually crashing while trying to process something coming from the client, and we were catching the crash, logging the exception, but then returning an empty buffer, and so the server was then sending an empty buffer to the client rather than. I guess the best behavior is to just not send anything at all because it doesn't know what to send to the client at that point. Um, and the best behavior is probably for the client to stop hearing from the server so that it can realize something's gone wrong, disconnect, and reconnect. Uh, in this case, though, that seems to lead to uh, some sort of a reconnect loop. But why is this actually failing? That's the direction I'll go in now. Datagram generator line 127. Dgen, there we go. 127. Oops. Okay. String argument must be of type string or an instance of a buffer or array buffer. That is going to be a pain to debug, isn't it? All right, I need to look at what the message is. Hopefully it's not too big a message. Presumably, I've got something just of the wrong type in here. I might also be able to track it down just by looking at what function it's trying to call. So if I go into i54.ts, there it is. And then what? I go to line 752. Ah, all right. So I've got a component attribute that should have a string, but we're writing something else to it. That would be bad. Okay. Oh, I didn't realize I stopped the server. Unity's locked up. Make sure that I don't have anything else in here. All right, that got it. So I still don't know what the root cause of the problem is, other than the client must be sending an invalid packet through to the server. It's not ideal that that could crash the server. Okay. Unity, I need to get Unity running again. Okay. Now, just out of interest, I noticed that these packets aren't tiny for when nothing's changing. I might just quickly look at what is in them. This is a total tangent. But just make sure there's nothing silly being sent. Uh, it could just be all these IDs. The IDs aren't going to be small. So yeah, we've got an ID, we've got an ACK, and then yeah, there's nothing in there. That's interesting. It's just kind of interesting to note. It means that in our idle state, we're sending through this much data. Wait, let me select that. That's all right. And that's interesting. I mean, it's not a huge amount of data, but what I could do to reduce it is I could make sure that my IDs are more likely to have zeros in them. And then when I compress these payloads, that will compress down really, really nicely. Just something to keep in mind, I suppose. All right. Now, what I was actually trying to do was get this to show me how many items are in my ontology, but I'm still blocked by the server crashing. So it's crashing here. So what is in our entity updates causing such a problem? Generic component. Got a component which has attributes. And one of these is going to have a string value that's something done. That one's fine. That one's fine. That one's fine. Yeah. Here it is. Quantity items is a long. Whose fault is that? Let's check if it is on the rider side. Quantity items. That is sending it through as an int value. All right. That index so slow. Everything's slow at the moment. I hope I don't need a reboot. Has been a while since I've rebooted. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to debug the receiver, compose UDPRX, and debug. I'll just see these packets coming in, and then we can hopefully see if the client is sending the wrong thing through, or if this is something in the way we pull stuff out of the entity store. That seems really plausible, in fact. Oh, I've got it started now. Might as well just try and reproduce this. So we come in here, start a new session. Um, let's just get a breakpoint in here if I can. Why can't I get a breakpoint? How do I get a breakpoint? Run toggle breakpoint. Control F8. All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, fair enough. All right. Link that up in the debugger. I want to try and catch this message going out so that I can then enable a breakpoint on the server and watch this message actually coming in from the server. That's suspicious. It's not going through that code path. Oh, might be. Having troubles with the debugger. All right, we've got this anyway. Quantity items definitely has an int value. Okay. So it must be a bug once this stuff goes through the entity service. I need something like this. Okay, we'll do a query for players. I see this kind of. Do a query for entities with the player component. Here's our remote command request. We can see that quantity items, and we can tell that it is a long value. I intentionally use this representation for longs. Otherwise, I run into problems with TypeScript treating it as a float or at double precision, but that becomes an issue for large values. All right. So this has to then be an issue in the entity client. This gets called by the transmitter. So I'll spin that up again. Hmm. Let me think. Set location. Where do I just fetch? Fetch all. Fetch by ID. No, these are going to be coming out of query, in fact. All right. So down here, we've got entities. This should have somewhere in it will be a player. I will trust that the player is coming through. We then generate a message from the client game state. Yeah, I think I know where this is going. Generate message. I just need to find where it actually packs this data into the protobuf. Invalidated chunks. Invalidated chunks. It's somewhere in here. Not somewhere in here. My chunk, imply message, register that. Surprised it's not in here. It's a very big function. All right, so generate a message. Given a list of entities, it will go through. Let me just look at generate delta. Ah, this is going to be the piece of code that's broken. So when we take a field, we need to work out what type it is. And here is the problem. This is returning int value if the actual value is of type long. The problem is our long has just come via JSON, so it's actually just a plain JavaScript object. So I'm actually going to create just a is long uh, Boolean if value instance of long, then return true. Otherwise, we're going to return well, let's say that it's a long if it has a low, a high, and an unsigned. I think I can just do that as low in. Let me just test that on a console. X colon 42, Y colon 43. And then let's say X in, so I need to say something useful like A equals that. X in A is true. Y is obviously true, but Z will be false. Excellent. So let's say low in value and high in value and unsigned in value. There might be a better way of doing that in TypeScript. Saying, hey, does this does this type implement an interface? But this is pretty much what I need for now. So now we just say is long value. Oh, right. I'm planning on adding gitf. Gitf, I don't know gitf. GLB. Yeah. Ah, cool. Hmm. Yeah, I've never really looked into object formats. All right. Is this working? No, it is not working. Oh, I must have a breakpoint or something. No. I must have crashed my server then. Let's do it without the debugger. Oi, what's wrong with that? Oh, is this because it's null or something like that? Uh, um, okay. Uh, is long, that needs to be value is object or something. Is that right? Hey, that looks better. They are talking again. Just need to wait for my sessions to die. Yeah, I'm sick of waiting for that. Let's just destroy the database. One way to kill my sessions. Okay. Pick that up. Oh, that's a lot of data. What? That's not looking good. Was I parsing a long into an int? No, I wasn't parsing a long into an int. I was I'm writing the longs out to the entity store as JSON blobs, which is what I'm meaning to do so that I know that they're longs. But then when I was uh, preparing to write them back to the client, I was falling into this default case where I was saying, oh, I don't know what it is because it wasn't implementing long. It was just a JSON object that happened to have the same properties as a long. And so it was falling into this default case and saying, well, that must be a string value. And then I was sending that through to trying to send that through to the client as a string, but Protobuf was going, well, you can't do that because that's an object. So the fix was to actually detect this. I should probably have another case in here to say, hey, if it's actually an object, then I don't know, probably JSON encode it or something. I don't know. It's probably one of those that should never happen cases. And yeah, source control is definitely everyone's friend. If it's not something you're familiar with, you should get familiar with it. It will save you a ton of time. And doing the basic stuff in Git is really straightforward. And if you have troubles, if you run into problems in Git that you don't know, you need to delete a version or something like that, you just look for it on Stack Overflow. You'll find the right command. Now, my question here is why on earth is the server sending so much data to the client? Do I have any breakpoints around here? No. Certainly not stopped on any. I'm a little concerned about this quantity of data. So I'm going to go to the datagram generator. Here's my message about to go out. Let's just restart my service in debug mode. Yeah, or ask Griffic, or me. Nope, that crashed. Still not my fault. I really need to raise a bug with JetBrains about that. Oh, these are massive packets going out now. I don't want to have to fix a netcode bug. Okay, so where's my delta? Huh. I think, okay, so there's clearly a bug here because the client is receiving these packets. I'm pretty sure it's acking them. I can confirm that by looking at the client state, making sure we don't have too many pending messages. No, we've only got a single pending message, so the client must be acking, which means that I'm not applying the deltas properly. I'm not going to fix that right now. I'm so over dealing with netcode. So let me just pull Trello up, and I'm just going to create something to keep track of it. Add a card, netcode bug. Um, so I will get to addressing this later. It is just not my priority at the moment. I was so sure I had the very, very last bug in my netcode sorted. How could there possibly be more bugs? All right. Don't know what this is doing. This is also that I can run that debug line uh, on the client side to prove that it is calling out to that service. Okay. Go here, we grab a stone, we grab another stone, I did not see. Oh, to me, I've crashed something again. How am I crashing Unity so badly? Oh, yeah, okay. If I've got a bug in my ontology client, then that is going to cause it to never return. All right. All right. I'm killing my client. Okay. Let's just nuke Unity. Now, I think I might run Unity from inside Rider this time. See if that gives me a little bit more control. So what's happening is when I open that dialogue, the crafting dialogue, it's going off and uh, it's going off and fetching stuff from the ontology client. But obviously, if this never returns for some reason, then this isn't going to ever return. But this is on the main thread. Yes, that's blocking inside this dot result, I think. So yeah, and I'm just so sick of writing that net code at the moment. I'll be feeling up for it again soon. But just after a few weeks of writing that Delta code, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'll get back to that later. Okay. Well, that is going to be an issue. I'm actually going to ignore performance for a second here. So the issue here is I've made this an async, but I was using dot result, which is just a blocking thing. This was never going to work. But if I make this await, and this one await, then I think this will actually fix my locking up issue. We'll try it. It's my falling bug again. Grab that, craft. That looks better. But I still didn't get my log message. I just want to save it. I keep on having it launch in maximized mode, which is making it really hard to read the console. Uh, it never hit this breakpoint just then, did it? Glitchy there. Craft. I have to actually craft something. Here it is. And that has locked up. Is there anything obvious going wrong here? going to make sure that this URL is valid. Yep, that's valid. All right, now the benefit of running Unity from inside Rider is it's really easy for me to kill it and restart it. I just want to know which line it's dying on here. This is going to be something so dumb. Don't play maximized, play focused, save. I'm actually going to quit Unity just to make sure that that actually takes. Debug. I think that Unity is only saving those workspace settings when I exit. It's my best guess. Yeah, there we go. That has actually taken this time. Okay, so we play. Then we grab some stones. Then we craft like that. Oh, I got rid of my breakpoint. We stop it. We restart it. Gonna run out of stones around here soon. Round one. Craft that. Okay. We. Oh. I was expecting that to. All right, I'm doing something silly here. So is it never making it into fetch recipes? Or did I just mess up my stepping then? We stop it. We start it. Okay, it is getting in here. We do that. We await fetch on that. Our status code is okay. Read that, and then we convert that to a list of recipe. Oh. She's then getting an exception. Oh. Wow. Yeah. That is fair enough. So the issue is, for anyone that didn't see that, the recipes come back looking like this, and I'm trying to parse this as a list of recipes. When in actual fact, it should be a dictionary. So the best way for me to do this is going to be just, where's my ontology client? oh, this is TypeScript. Topology client. So yeah, that needs to be a dictionary of string recipes, and we're going to return that dot values. That's not a list. That is a set or something. Collection. Collection it is. Likewise, this one will need to be an collection. And dictionary. I mean, I could just return why am I doing it like this? Why don't I just return the dictionary? Dictionary of string to item, dictionary string to recipe, and return data. Dictionary of string to recipe. Okay, and then I actually want to just copy these in, right? Items can be items. I'll just take a copy of it. I presume that's a copy constructor. Where's my documentation? There's my documentation. Initializes a new instance that contains elements copied. Excellent. Just from a best practice point of view, I don't want the calling code to have a reference to the internal dictionaries. I mean, they can get it back out anyway, but yeah, whatever. All right, we can get rid of that, and we can get rid of that. All right, is this going to work for me? I'm really running low on stones in the spawn area, though. The networking, once you started having multiple endpoints per message, not a problem, Griffith. Now, where's a couple of stones? There's one, and there's one. Maybe I should put in some code that makes you like scatter your inventory when your session gets killed. At least that way I won't be running out of stones. All right, so we craft. Okay. We locked up again. We have locked up. Something wrong in fetch items. All right, I'll breakpoint there. Get rid of these. That one. Looks right. Items, I'm pretty sure, is a dictionary. Yep. Oh, it's probably having troubles parsing way deep in here. Okay. Sorry, a bit distracted there for a moment. Everything always takes longer than I think it will. I thought it should only be about half an hour or so to get these clients up and running, right? But no, never that simple. One of those, craft, and craft. Hey, that didn't hit the breakpoint. What? I'm confused. That can't set a breakpoint on that line for some reason. Oh, weird. It must have just been confused. It seems to allow the breakpoint now. Uh, Still got some stones. Excellent. Craft that. Fetch recipes. And then these ones aren't there anymore. Fetch items. Didn't find loaded method. I might just try making a change to this file and seeing if that causes it to recompile or something. Oh, I didn't mean to run that. Stop that. Just make a change to this file, whatever. So I should hit this breakpoint. I mean, is it possible it is never returning from this and knows it's never returning from that? That doesn't make sense. I'm going to wait on that. This is synchronous. Never hitting this one. Oh, that's going to be because of an exception in here. So here we go. Yeah, I'm confused as to why it even disables these breakpoints, though. It's as if it's in real time, realizing that there's an exception here and never, like, deleting that code or something. It's a bit strange. Now, I will be finishing up soon. Grab one of them, craft it, craft it. What? I'm not hitting these breakpoints at all. Not the server being broken, is it? No, we've still got recipes and items. Just going to restart the server anyway. Restart Unity once again. Size of these packets. Okay, if this doesn't hit that breakpoint, then I am thoroughly confused. Okay, we've got a breakpoint. We step through. We never get a response. Last attempt before I try thinking of something new. I'm going to pull the server down, like the database down. play. Oops, I should have played this. Yeah, that's to be expected. Um, why would this never be returning? I wonder if it's because this is async and I'm somehow never waiting on it. So we do a wait on this. This itself is async. I am confused. I don't need to start it, do I? That'd be pretty funny. I've got a feeling that is it. Although it doesn't explain why I was getting an exception earlier trying to parse the result, because that would suggest that it was running. Hmm. Oh, there we go. That is definitely working better. Grabs the items. No, it doesn't like me doing that. Okay, so I'm not allowed to call start on it, but that did work better. So I must be using it wrong. It must be this dot result it doesn't like. Uh, so I wonder, um, I just need to work out how to wait on a task on C# from synchronous code. Um, task wait. Oh, wait, there is a wait. That. Oh, is that going to do it for me? Grab one of those. Grab one of those. Craft. Um, okay. It's a bit frustrating because this is just debug code, right? I don't normally try calling asynchronous code from the main thread. But it doesn't feel like this should be rocket science. Out of interest, I've got some other asynchronous code here. Load chunk does just have .result called on it. So I think what the problem here is, I think that I've got a deadlock, and it's because I'm calling .result in my main thread, and my HTTP code is probably trying to do something on the main thread. So my simplest solution here is just going to be to call this code on a separate thread. So what happens if I do, oops, if I do all of that stuff on a thread, where's an example? Got a new thread, we just called .start on it. Like that. Doesn't like that, why not? Oh yeah, there we go. Not sure if I can debug log from a background thread, but let's find out. I probably don't want this .wait code, do I? I'll just see what it does. No, let's get rid of it. Do that. All right, here we go. Yay! Got ontology with 3 items and 1 recipe. Got there. Yeah, so that's a bit of a trap. The issue I was running into there is the fact that this code was running on the main thread, and .result is a blocking call. I think we can probably get the documentation for that. Task.result. Yeah, it's definitely a yay graphic. Um, and the issue is get the result exception. Do we have any remarks? Yeah, so accessing it blocks the calling thread. So we're blocking main, and I think what was happening is this code here, I suspect, wanted to run something on the main thread, but it could never get control of the main thread because the main thread was blocked waiting for this. So it's just a classic deadlock. And yeah, a bit of a trap. But good to know that's fixed. Okay. So what am I going to do next? That shows that the client works. I need the store. So I need to instantiate the store somewhere. Uh, and I'm not sure the best way to do that. Um, in fact, what I might do is I might just always call out to this endpoint at the moment. So when we do pop the crafting recipe, craft with verb performer. So this currently takes the recipe book. What I want to do in here is call out to my endpoint. The problem here, and this is why I'm still a bit confused about my earlier deadlock, surely you can call out to the HTTP client from the main thread. I mean, it just seems so bizarre. C sharp, HTTP client, main thread, deadlock. Okay, this looks awfully familiar. Uh, this person's saying you should just await. The problem is I can only await from an async function. Yes, here we go. So continuation is added to the queue for the message pump to handle. Problem is the message pump is currently blocked. Uh, things like this make me miss TypeScript. Yeah. Um, I mean, there is kind of the same thing in the same issue in TypeScript, just TypeScript makes it really hard to do what I'm doing, which is, well, trying to write some synchronous code that calls out to the asynchronous stuff. But TypeScript just really doesn't let you write that asynchronous code. Uh, TypeScript doesn't have, I can find my craft with verb performer. It just doesn't have, find my code. It doesn't have this dot result. And what that causes you, what that forces you to do is if I get rid of this thread, it forces you to instead, let's just do what it would do, await here. And likewise in JavaScript, web workers threads, yeah, I think they are, aren't they? I've not really used web workers. I can make that one async. The problem is when we call this now, this is now async, but I'm not expecting that to work. Crafting presenter. Oh, in a web worker. Sorry, I thought web worker, I thought you were referring to a JavaScript thread. Uh, web worker. Yeah, not quite sure what you mean there, Graphic. Uh, I mean, living in C# land here. Like the TypeScript, it's easy because it's so easy to make everything asynchronous. But here, it's really hard for me to make things asynchronous because, like an action, um, like I don't even see how this code is compiling. Oh no, it's totally possible in JavaScript. The thing that's not possible in JavaScript is having dot result because this is a blocking attribute. And TypeScript just does not have the concept of blocking unless you know use some sort of interprocess stuff. I don't know, mutexes or something like that, semaphores. Um, uh, yeah, sorry, sorry about the delay. um, and so because you can't do this in TypeScript, yeah, you're forced to do it the correct way, which is to await. But yeah, as I said, this is yeah, this needs to be async, but like, what does async void even mean? Uh, well, async void is fine, isn't it? That will just, I think this will work. Will it? I think it will. So on craft, he's going to set this. It invokes it. I think that'll just invoke it in the background. Let's try this. Be hilarious if it were as simple as just doing what I should have done in TypeScript. It'll be a bit more complicated if that function were not void, because then my function would have to return a task. And then, so you end up with your async just propagating through, which also happens in TypeScript, but yeah, it's just kind of much simpler, I find, to write asynchronous code in TypeScript. Craft that, and then craft. Yep, that works. Yeah, all right. So I should have just done it like that to begin with. So I think that the takeaway for me is, I mean, I knew I was being dodgy. I was just trying to get that code working for debug purposes. But this comment here, don't synchronously block on asynchronous methods, period. that is good advice. So I won't do that anymore. I will instead just make things asynchronous and deal with the consequences. All right. So this is in fact loading the ontology. So what I need to do next is change this code here. So this is available recipes for tool. What I need to do in here is change this to pull the data from the ontology. So I'm going to have to do an await in here because I'm going to have to do a load fetch ontology. New ontology client dot fetch store. Sorry. Yeah, infectious async. But yeah, as I said, you get it in TypeScript as well. It just feels more natural. Uh, but yeah, I don't know why that. Like maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe it isn't more natural because even in TypeScript, if you've got a function that returns a value, then you need to declare it as returning a promise of that value. So maybe there isn't a difference between the effectiveness of it. And I just need to harden up a bit here. So this will need to be an await, which means this needs to be an async, which means this needs to be a task. So this is just like in TypeScript, that would be a promise. So we've got our ontology, that's fine. Now, available recipes for tool, wherever this gets called is going to have to change. And I think that this is where I use continuations or something. Dot continue with. Is that right? Or is it dot then or something? Dot. It's continue with. And continue with takes all right, I need to look up some help here. C#, continue with. Make sure this is indeed what I want. Creates a continuation that executes asynchronously when the target task completes. Oh yeah, this is what I want. It takes an action that receives a caller supplied state information and a cancellation token. Okay. It's the simplest version of this. This one creates a continuation that executes asynchronously when the target task completes. First task is just some task that returns some dates. I just want to see what this is doing. Yeah, all right, it's just an array of dates. Continuation task is just the first one, continue with, and then that is an action. Yes. Don't like that. Oh no, it said that it will call this once it has resolved. Okay. So continue with, and then in here, I think we can just do that. Continuation action is going to be that. Result. Wait, that's a list. Oh yeah, no, this isn't the store. This is the available recipes task. We need that, and then that. So this is, what was it doing? This was taking, okay. I'm actually going to need to take a break because I'm kind of staring at my screen and I'm hungry. And they're never a good combination. So I'm going to finish up now, grab some food. I might just get this function more or less working. The change I'm really making here is instead of using the old crafting recipes, which were uh, in here, I'll instead be using the ones that are coming from the server. Uh, so I may just kind of flesh this code out after lunch, but I don't expect to spend too much more time on this today because I do have other stuff that I need to sort out. So thank you everyone for joining me, and I'm not sure what time I'll be starting streaming tomorrow. It could be a little bit late, uh, or I may need to cancel, just depending on a few different things. So yeah, if I don't catch you tomorrow, then I'll catch you the day after.